Megtooth Sabers requires a lot of work on engineering, drilling, smoothing, tapping, setting, imagining, cutting, stripping, twisting, dipping, tin it, pin it, wire it, fire it, lock it, cast it, swing it, bash it. Megtooth Sabers.
Test. Woo! Bam. We're live. We haven't been live for a while. And I got to get right to business tonight. But basically, this is the Saber we were installing when we last left off. And I'll have a story to tell about the battery. New battery's already in there. We're wired where we should have been last week. And I got a kill key in the recharge port because she's live, ladies and gents. So tonight what we're going to do is we're going to finish wiring the switches. And we're going to wire up the NeoPixel that's going to go in here to light up the crystal chamber. And we may do the positive splices here tonight, which I'll show you how I do that. I'm actually going to splice the positive battery line into the positive NeoPixel connector, and then the positive coming out of the NeoPixel crystal chamber, and we'll splice all that together and weld it all together and tuck it down in there. But that's, we got to do our switch wires first because I can't have a mess in there before we do the switch wires. But did some copper cladding on the battery, pretty cool stuff. But at any rate, hashtag nerd up, everybody. And you know, work got me. Work gets in the way. My job is pretty crazy, and the last couple of weeks it's been beyond pretty crazy. So I'm happy to be on here with you guys and not at work. Cheers to that. Diet Coke-ski. I'm off the wagon. I'm on the Diet Coke. I'm a Diet Coke-aholic. But at any rate, that's not related. So we're going to do some install stuff tonight. But really quick, you know, I wanted to cover something for Birch. Birch, I'm going to go to screen share and let me find I got to find a cord to plug in a Proffie on. Stand by one. And I'm going to go to screen share and I'm going to show you Proffie getting recognized, hopefully. Let me get a Proffie board out here. And I think this one will work, should work. Okay, so let's go to screen share because Birch asked for this. So I'm going to go to screen share and let's go to screen share that one without my ugly mug in it. Now, you don't want that one. I'm going to open OS 5.9, which is the most recent publicly released OS. I do have newer ones on there. And I'm going to go down to Proffie OS Eno, and I'm going to open the sketch. And this is for Birch, really quick. And then I don't know that you're going to be able to hear my system sounds. If I turn my system sounds on, you're going to get like reverb. So you're not going to hear my system recognize the Proffie, but you know, it is what it is. All right. So I'm going to scroll down here and you can see I've got define Starkiller RGB config.h. Now that's for a Proffie 2.2, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to plug in the Proffie 1.5 because Jeff just requested a quick refresh. So I've just plugged in the Proffie 1.5 and I don't know that it's going to recognize this board because I just pulled a board from my old stuff. We'll see. Oh no, I did. So there you go. So Jeff, you go to Tools once your board's plugged in and Port, and then you see it says COM4 Proffie board. Bam. And now your port's selected. And then you just define your config file you want. It needs to be in the config folder. And then the name of your config file. This one is Starkiller RGB config.h. And then you would hit upload. And when you upload, you should get a message that, you know, shows you percentages that it's being uploaded. If you get a countdown tick, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, your upload did not succeed. You've got to get percentage, 0%, 1%, 2%, etc. until you get to 100%. But that's how you do that. If you're if your Proffie board is plugged in and you know you're on a good data cord and you're not seeing Proffie board show up in one of the COM ports, you've either got a problem with your drivers, Jeff, and I sent you the link to look at your drivers. And hang on a second, let's see if I still have that YouTube video pulled up. So this video right here, which is Proffie board and Zadig ports walkthrough, that video looks like that. And Jeff, I sent you the link to that, and that's the one you want to watch. If you watch this video and your Proffie board isn't showing up in your ports, then if you follow that video, you'll probably have success, because that means something's not installed right on your Proffie. But at any rate, while I got y'all in a different view and we're looking at Zadig there, I'm going to move the camera and see what we got here. So stand by, give me a second. Let me turn everything on. And let me get back to you guys. So I'm going to go back to the scene, make sure. Yeah. Whew. All right. Let's see if that answered the question for Jeff. New channel for Max. Chet Osborne is on. Kim Kanama's on. Kim, I'll message you when I get a chance. Just last 2 weeks. Proffie. Who cares? Proffie. I don't care. I call it Proffie. But I know Birch calls it Proffie. It doesn't matter. You can call it whatever you want. Kyberphonic. Good to see Jesse on board. You know, Jesse's making good sound fonts, but let's show you what we did last week. So, in reviewing, I want to review. So this is a Switchcraft recharge port, and I showed you last week. Stand by. Let me rotate this thing and see if I can find it. Okay, so this leg on a Switchcraft recharge port that's got, you know, it's etched SC. This is the cutoff leg. So when you plug in a charger or a recharge port, this is a negative leg that gets cut off when you plug in a charger port into there. So that's what makes this kind of a switch. And then the other leg that's hooked to the positive is the center pin. So you can tell because it's the center pin and it's connected to this leg. So that's your positive. And that means this other leg, which is not connected to the center pin and it's not etched Switchcraft, is positive. So then last week where we left off is I had my recharge port all wired up and we had no joy. And I'm going to explain to you what happened. So last week when I wired my recharge port, which by the way, the first time we did it, it was wired correctly. And then we traced it all the way back to the battery and we weren't getting voltage at the battery. So what happened, if y'all remember, I was living life dangerously and doing what the master said not to do. And that's the, you know, Tim, or the custom Saber shop video guy. Y'all bear with me because I can't believe it. Mad Cow. Jesus, Lord have mercy. Mad Cow said never to leave your battery contacts exposed like I did in the video. Remember I was joking we were living dangerously? Well, what happened was, is I actually touched, yeah, if your port doesn't show, Jeff, you probably got the wrong drivers or a bad cord. I'm sorry, not last week, Max, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whenever I was live last. This has been a long time ago, I know. But this is what we were working on. So what happened is my positive and negative wires that I had loose willy-nilly hanging out, you know, if you remember, I had them exposed. And what happened is they obviously at some point or another, they touched each other, and then it tripped the battery protection circuit. So these protected batteries have a battery protection circuit in it, because if you'll remember when we put the voltmeter on it, we weren't getting any volts. So basically what I did, and here I got a battery to show you. So this is very similar battery, and this is the video we had in last week's video. And there you can see I have my wires exposed like you don't want them to be exposed, because if those two wires touch each other, they'll trip the battery protection circuit, which is precisely what happened. So how do you fix that when the battery protection circuit is tripped? Well, all you got to do is plug it back onto a charge circuit, and the charge circuit will reset the battery protection circuit, which is what I did. The battery was fine. It's fully charged. This is the same battery we fully installed. All I did is, I had the same problem, Jeff. Yeah, try putting it in bootloader mode. Yeah, you can put it in bootloader mode and just press upload. Then you won't see a port, Jeff. If you do put the board in bootloader mode by pressing boot and reset, you will not see a port. Just press upload and it'll work. That's the fail-safe mode for if you have an interrupted upload, is to put it in bootloader mode. But when Jeff was first installing Proffies, Jeff was always putting his board in bootloader mode. And, you know, if you're having to do that, you know, if you're having to press boot reset every time you program a board, that's not the way to do it. Yeah, Jeff, go back and watch that video I linked to you, because my guess is you've run Zadig more than once and you've got a screwy driver issue going on your computer, and you're going to have to research the drivers and back diagnose it the way Frederick shows in that video, and you're going to have to get rid of the driver that is no good. Hey, Cold Weather, it's good to see you. All right, so the bottom line is I could show you, but my positive wire is intact. I guess I could put a multimeter on it. I could pull that kill key and let's see here. Let me get out the multimeter, put it in volts where you guys can see it, hopefully. And I'm going to probe this battery with the recharge port unplugged. So I'm going to go positive on the center post and negative on that, negative, and 4.21 volts. So there you can see we're fully charged. Now, because we're working on the Saber, I don't want a live battery, so I'm putting this kill key back in there because we don't want to be working on a live battery. But there you can see that the battery works. It's hardwired into the recharge port, and we're done. Yeah, Jeff, my guess is you've got the wrong driver installed. And anytime you're having driver problems, you really need to watch that video that Frederick made. It's probably the best video that Frederick ever made. And it stems from, I had the same issues you're having when I first switched to this new computer, and I couldn't get my computer to recognize Proffie. And it's because I had run Zadig more than once, which is how Frederick found out people were doing that. And a lot of people, you know, view that Zadig as a step in the process you have to do every time, and that is not true. On a Windows computer, the first time you set up a Windows computer, you run Zadig and install the drivers one time. If you run Zadig more than once, it actually installs the wrong drivers, and then you can never see the Proffie in ports, and then you have to go diagnose your drivers like Frederick shows in that video that I linked you, Jeff, and you're going to have to fix it. So my guess is that probably happened to you inadvertently or unknowingly, but if you've run Zadig more than once on that computer, 100% you have the wrong driver installed. So you got to fix that. You know, it'd be nice if we got a board where we didn't have to have those drivers, and the, you know, Arduino just recognized it. And, you know, maybe that's an improvement Frederick can make in the future, because installing the right drivers on a Windows computer to see the Proffie board seems to be a huge problem. Oh crap, my work cell's going now. I hope, hang on a minute. Let me check this crap. All right. I got an email, but I'm not answering that. But yeah, that will get a lot of people. In fact, it has. So tonight what we're going to do is down here in the bottom. Let me see if I can zoom in on this where you all can see it, and then try to bring her in there. All right. So down here we have these two switches. Now I didn't install these switches. Whoever put these switches in, it wasn't me. But you can see that each of these switches has four legs. So this leg is contiguous with this leg, and this leg is continuous with this leg. Now then they installed this other switch the opposite way, which is a little weird, where this leg is contiguous with this leg, and this leg, and then this leg and this leg. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie these two legs together, and that'll be my ground circuit for the switches, is tying those two legs together. And I'm going to solder them together and solder my ground wire to those two legs. And then I will make this my aux switch leg, which that'll carry the yellow wire. And then I'll make this leg the main switch leg. right here. So these two that are tied together will be ground. And then the opposite side, which isn't contiguous, because if I wired the one here, that's not good because that's ground. So I need to wire my positive or my green wire here for our switch, which is opposite of this leg, is this leg. And I'll show you a picture that explains all that. And then I'll wire my yellow wire. Well, I'll probably wire it to this leg here because it's more out of the way. And then I'll have my yellow, white, and green wires, which are my switch grounds, which are shared by both switches. And then the green wire will be to my main switch, and the yellow wire will be to my auxiliary switch. And that's how we will wire them in. That's how we'll get it done. But these switches aren't glued in. I wonder if I could rotate them. Pardon me. I might rotate the switches. Oh, man. So, at any rate, that's kind of the plan tonight. And then after we do this, we're going to wire a neopixel, an accent pixel, which is going to go... Let me zoom out so you guys can kind of see what we're working on. Whoa, it's a slow zoom out. Okay, so on this Saber, it does have a crystal chamber, which is right here. And on the underside, which I don't know if you're going to be able to see, is a place for us to put, you know, an LED or a neopixel to light up the crystal chamber. And we're going to put a neopixel, a single neopixel in there. And I guess I'm going to run it to its own separate data line. So we'll have 3 blades on this Saber. We'll have the Shtok connector LEDs, which I showed in the first video, which their data is that brown wire. Then I have the main blade, which is purple data, positive and negative for the neopixel adapter. These are the positive from my battery going to the recharge port, the negative from my battery going to the recharge port, and the white leg, which will go to my Proffie board, which is cut off. Now, we'll be wiring... if I get the switch wires done tonight, and we get the neopixel done, I think I'll show this merge. So I'm going to merge the neopixel positive onto this positive leg, and then I'm going to merge our other neopixel positive onto this leg, and I'm also going to splice in, you know, a short pigtail that's going to run positive up to the board. So all my positives will be merged, and I'll be able to shove it down, but I have to wire the switches first before we can do that. Every one of these lightsabers is different. Just because I'm installing this Saber this way doesn't mean it's the right way. It's just the way it works. So on this one, Max, we're going to be splicing a bunch of wires. So I'm going to have a splice here. You know, these 2 reds are going to be spliced. And then I'm going to have the red coming from our neopixel accent LED in this end of the cut wire. And that's why I left enough positive so we could cut that and splice it. And then I'm going to have a pigtail that feeds my Proffie board. So I'm going to have 3 wires spliced into one junction and 2 in the other junction. And those 3 and 2 will merge, and then we'll shrink wrap it, and we'll be good to go. But I can't do any of that until after we wire these switches. So let me see if I can rotate these switches so they make more sense to me without breaking them. Oh, yeah. Oh man, these switches are so fragile. I have more switch 22s if I break one, but I'm trying to do it without breaking them. These things are so fragile. So the switch popped out of there. I'm trying to pop the switch back into the hole. Get in the hole. Find the hole. Don't you want to go home? There we go. Okay. So there you can see the switches in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge these 2 legs into one. And those will be my grounds. I'm going to solder them together. And they'll be shared grounds on both switches. And they're touching pretty good there. Let me get the soldering iron heated up here. And we'll get the soldering iron heated up, and let me get some wires cut and get down here. We don't need a whole lot of length. Now on these switches, I use 30 gauge because, you know, switches just aren't carrying any amps, and 30 gauge doesn't take up much room. So I'm using 30 on these switches, which is all you need. You know, you don't need to run big heavy gauge wires on the switches the only place you need to run heavy gauge wire is going to be, you know, on a NeoPixel adapter. And from your battery to the recharge port. Well, it will help if I could get some wire. Bam. Okay, so I got some wire there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here with some solder, and hopefully y'all will be able to see what I'm doing here to these switch legs. And I do want to let's see if we can get some of these wires out of the way so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. So you can see these two switch legs here are pretty close together. I want to get them closer than that because I'm actually going to solder them. And they're actually touching there. You can't see it, but they are touching. And we're going to bring my iron in here. And we'll bring the multimeter in here too to check for continuity so you can see what I'm telling you is the truth. Okay, I think we got a good connection there. Let's bring in the multimeter and we'll check for continuity there and we'll see if we got it. So remember I said, you know, this leg is connected to this leg and this leg is connected to this leg on those two switches. So if I just had a successful solder, you'll see I got continuity. And I'm bringing in my multimeter. I don't think you're going to be able to see my multimeter, but I'm zoomed in. But I'm actually, you should hear the multimeter, so I'll shut my trap here so you can hear the multimeter when I make contact. So I got a good solder here on both switches. So the ground is now connected on both these switches. Now I can cut off these legs because I don't need them. I'm going to run my one white wire, which is ground for both switches, off those two combined legs. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to bring our white wire in there. And I'm going to strip some of our white wire. And these switches are so fragile. Their custom Saber shop calls these switch 22s. And I'll show you a picture here on the internet in a minute about how to wire these, you know, these switches properly, because everybody always asks, well, what leg do I wire to what? And it can be confusing because you have 4 legs on these switches, but you actually only are using 2 of them. You're only using 2 legs. Now I'm not going to put shrink on this before I go onto my solder. I'm going to do it after I solder on. So I've already tinned my wire. I did that off camera, so I'm sorry you guys didn't see that. But you should see our wire coming in here. And let me try to get y'all where you're in frame where you can see this. There we go. She don't want to stay there, does she? Let me zoom out a little bit. That might help. Now, of course, the leg of the tripod is exactly in the way, but I'm going to bring that wire down and hopefully join. This is our negative for both our switches, because remember we joined both those legs, so this is the negative for both of our switches. Bada bing. So that's our negative switch leg. Now I need some heat shrink. Could I move the camera to the left? The problem is, Max, is we're shooting down in there, but you know, I joined those 2 legs on those 2 switches and soldered that wire on there, and I don't know that you're going to be able to see it that good. This is kind of really super small stuff that we're working on. But at any rate, I'm going to cut a fairly large piece of heat shrink here. because I want it to be able to get down over those switches. But I'm also going to cut a small piece of heat shrink, try and grab as much of that joint as I can. And the small piece will help merge my white wire onto the bigger heat shrink, which I'm going to drop down. So there's actually, you know what, that small piece of heat shrink is going to cover. It's going to go over the legs and everything. So now I'm bringing my heat gun and I'm going to shrink wrap that connection. And then while it's hot, I'm going to fold it out of the way because I want it out of the way. And if you guys can see, I did that same thing on the recharge port. You know, I folded the hot shrink wrap out of the way. So that's another trick, is if you just bend the heat shrink while it's hot, that gets the wire kind of out of the way and sends the wire the direction you want it. So let me try to find this. I want to try to find this switch diagram on the internet. So if you just Google, if you go to Google and you Google, I need to share the page, stand by so you guys can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to leave that in there and let's go back to Google. And I'm going to Google tactile switch. And then I'm going to go to images on Google search. And maybe I need to search tactile switch wiring. And let's go to images. And I know I should find the image here somewhere where it shows right and wrong. Let's go to momentary tactile switch wiring. Let's try that. There we go. So this picture here, let me see if I can pull this up. Okay, so this switch, each of these tactile switches has 4 legs. And you can see the 4 legs here. So remember, this leg is not connected to this leg, but this leg is connected to this leg. You can see it's internally connected. So what happens is when you press the button, then the legs get connected. So what I did is I connected this leg to one switch to that same leg on the other switch. But that means then I need my green wire on the leg of on this leg of the other switch, and then I would need the yellow wire on the leg of the other switch, which is what we're going to do. That means the 2 switches are sharing a common ground, but each switch has its own independent switch wire. So that's what we're doing right now. And I know this seems a little bit confusing, so, you know, that's kind of what's going on here. That's why you don't need all 4 legs on these switches. So let me go back to the whole full caboodle here. So in that video, this leg is connected to this leg. This leg here is connected to this leg, and this leg is connected to this leg, and this leg is connected to this leg. So now I don't need this leg or this leg because they're already connected via the white wire. So I'm going to trim them, and off they go, because we're getting them out of our way because we don't need them. And I'm going to shake the loose pieces of switch out of there, and bada bing, there we go. So now what we're going to do is this forward switch here, this one right here, is going to get our green wire, and I think I'm going to wire my green wire here, and I'll wire my yellow wire here, and that way I can get rid of those 2 legs. And then I got to figure out a way to permanently adhere these switches in there so they don't push out. I don't like using super glue on these switches because the super glue can get into the switch mechanism, but you know, I'll figure something out. May not be tonight. But I'm trying to get these switches wired tonight. So I'm going to strip some green wire for our main switch. And I'm going to twist that wire. I'm doing this off camera, but y'all should know what that looks like, right? And I'm dipping her in flux. And let's do some pre-tinning here. And off we go. Yeah, I couldn't find the exact picture I wanted, but that one I showed works. I mean, it's basically what's going on these switches. It's pretty simple. Which we'll be able to test this here in a minute with the multimeter. So if you're ever not sure, you can always test with a multimeter. Alright, so now I think I'm going to... I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten out this post to make it good for soldering. So I'm using my needle nose pliers to straighten it out. And my multimeter's going off because I didn't fix it. Alright. So I need to pre-tin. Let me get my multimeter out of the way because this is insane. And let's go ahead and pre-tin that switch leg that we're going to solder to, which is going to be right here. And we're good. Now, put some fresh solder on my tip. And we're going to bring in the wire here. This is crazy because I'm trying to do this in frame. Which is insane. But there we go. So that wire, our green switch wire, is soldered on. And I'm going to cut a piece of heat shrinkage. And I'm going to drop some heat shrink down there to cover that switch post. Just like that. I don't know if you guys can see that. But now I have that wire covered in heat shrink, which I'm going to shrink it up. Shrink, shrink, shrinkaroo. We're off to the races. And while it's warm, I'm going to bend her over so she's out of the way. And then I don't need this other leg. So I'm going to cut it off. Bada bing. So we don't need that leg. Now, I think what I'm going to do is wire our yellow switch wire, which is our aux switch, onto this leg. So I'm prepping it, and let me see if I can point it out here so you can see which leg we're going to. We're going to this leg right here, which from your perspective looks like it's touching, but it's not. You can see it's pretty far away. So we're going to be going to that leg here. So we're going to pre-tin. Well, it's even harder, Max, you know, when I'm having to work around the camera, because normally, you know, I wouldn't have the camera and the tripod right here. And normally I also wouldn't be sucking in solder smoke like I just did there. But, you know, it's all for the sake of YouTubery. And really quick, I know sometimes, because me and Jen talk about it, sometimes I might sound like this is the only way to do it, this is my way, this is the best way, but it is not. It's just the way I do it. You know, you'll develop your own style, and you might find something that I do is screwed up, and you don't like it. Well, you don't have to do it that way. There's a bunch of different ways to get this done. You know, right before I went live tonight, I was out working on my trailer lights, and I found a short on my boat trailer lights, but I didn't have time to fix it because I need to get in here with you guys, and I got other crap going on too, so my job is really making my life difficult at the moment because pretty much don't have any time to get my stuff done, and you know, still get in here to hang out with you guys some. But so now we're gonna send some shrink wrap down this yellow wire, and over the switch. I might have to do this off camera because I can't see it. Oh, I found it. Get in the hole. Don't you want to go in the hole? Alright, so now we're heat shrinking our yellow wire. And we'll bend it over while it's hot. That's what you got to do. You got to bend her over while she's hot. All right, let's zoom out. We're going to zoom way out here. And I'm going to scoot this over a little bit. And we're going to bring in the handy dandy multimeter. And we're going to do something pretty cool here. And hopefully this works. So I need some alligator clips on my multimeter. And I'm hooking the alligator clips up. Oh. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a continuity test by depressing these switches, and we should hear tone like that on the multimeter. So let me strip some of our switch ground wire. And this is our switch ground wire, 30 gauge. I'm going to strip some of that bad boy right there, just like that. I'm going to twist her, and I'm connecting the black lead. This is the black lead, the negative lead, to our multimeter onto that switch wire, and I'm going to fold that switch wire over it so we have good contact. And then we're going to strip our green wire, which is our main switch, the front switch wire. I always make my front switch the main switch, but I've seen people do it opposite of that, and it doesn't matter. I mean, you do it how you want. Now I'm going to take my red lead, alligator clips from my multimeter, and I'm going to hook it onto the green wire, and I'm going to fold that green wire around the alligator clip. Now we're going to turn over our lightsaber, and we're going to press this forward button. We should hear a tone. We've got tone. Fire it. So we know that our main switch is wired correctly. Now let's check our auxiliary switch. So we're going to strip some auxiliary switch wire here and twist it, and we're going to connect our positive lead. I've left my negative lead connected to our ground white wire right here, and only lead I'm switching is my positive, and I'm putting it on our auxiliary switch wire just like that. And then I'm going to turn this Saber over, and I'm going to hit the back button. We've got tone. Fire it. So, bada bing, the switches are wired correctly now. Certainly, we can do a lot to neaten that up, like twisting those wires together, and I probably will. The interesting thing on this is I haven't really solved. The soundboard obviously has to go here, and I don't like the soundboard being mounted on metal, so probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to be mounting plastic straps across here. And then I'm going to put a Proffie board board adapter, a plastic 3D printed one in here to hold the Proffie board. And then I'll probably secure it with E6000 onto the ribs that I'm going to glue across here, plastic ribs. It's all going to be plastic because there's really no other way to mount this. Ooh, and by the way, we can cut off that other leg from that switch that we don't need. Bada bing, it's out of the way. So there, now our switches are wired. We could certainly wire or twist all those leads together, and I might to get them out of the way later, but let's move on to bigger and better things. Let's wire, okay, the kill key's still in it, so we're solid. Our switches are wired, so we're ready to go there. Now we need to wire the NeoPixel that's going to light up our crystal chamber. So we're going to do that right now. So let me get some NeoPixels out. I need some NeoPixels. And there's a strip of NeoPixels right there. And let's see here. What was I going to do? I'm going to get some wire. I'm using 30 for this. So I need a red wire for positive. I need a white wire for, you know what, I shouldn't use white for negative. Let me use black. I'm going to use black for negative. Because I already have 2 white wires in there that are loose, so I don't want to get them confused. So I'm going to use black for negative. And for data, I'm going to use orange. Because that's a color I haven't used for data in the other 2 schemes. So I'm going to use orange. Okay. So anytime we're doing neopixels, you know, we have 3 wires. Positive is going to be red, negative is going to be black, and orange is going to be our data. And you know, I cut those all different lengths because we're doing this quick and dirty here for the internets, and I want to try and get you guys in a better place where you're not, you know, getting not blocking me, but maybe you guys can see what's going on. So this is our NeoPixel strip, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I don't know if this is better or worse, because now I'm all backwards. So you can see that the strip arrows are running this way. I don't know if you guys can see that on the video. So if that's the case, then I don't have data pads or positive or negative for this pixel. So I know that pixel is junk. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut that pixel away, which leaves me my data pads. And you can see here, I'll try to point it out, but this one's going to be negative, the center is data, and the outer one is positive. I'll zoom in on them here in a bit. Now I'm just going to use 1 pixel for the crystal chamber. So I'm going to cut just after the pixel. And that leaves, you know, data pads on this strip, which I can still use again later. And now we have our NeoPixel down here. So I'm going to try and zoom in on this puppy for you. It's time for a new mat, because this mat is toast. There. I'm all opposite because it's crazy. But I'm trying to zoom in on it. But you guys can see how small that is, right? I'm going to get my solder out. And this is a cut-off piece of NeoPixel. Now, you guys can buy those NeoPixels on PCBs that are already mounted or whatever. But, you know, I make so many lightsaber blades that I have so many of these spare NeoPixels. On crystal chambers, I just use these NeoPixels like this. Because to me, it's just, it's cheaper, it's easier, you know, it's golden, it doesn't matter. Now, it probably would be better, now that I'm thinking about it, for us to solder on the back side because of how the wires are going to route. So I almost made a mistake right here live again for you guys. But I'm going to pull the adhesive off the back side, and I'm going to get rid of you need to get rid of the adhesive on the, you need to get rid of the adhesive that's stuck on the back of the NeoPixel. So I'll take a hobby knife, and this hobby knife has seen better days. I think I have a better one in here. But I'm trying to get the adhesive started, just like that, so I can get the adhesive off. Because if you're trying to solder onto that adhesive, good luck with that, because that ain't happening. But stand by one, I will get it off there in just a second. Okay. Now, this is going to be positive, this one here. This is data, and this is negative. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-tin these suckers. Let me clean off my soldering iron tip. And let's pre-tin each pad. Normally I like holding these things in a holder, but if I do that, you guys aren't going to be able to see it. But there you go. Now each pad on the NeoPixel is tinned. Now I'm going to flip it over and make sure that I'm not crazy. Positive is on that side, so it's going to be opposite when we solder. Yep. So positive should be on this side. I'll point it out to you with a razor. That should be positive. Right there. So that's where we're going. So off camera, because y'all are zoomed in and you're not going to be able to see this, but I am stripping wire. I am stripping wire. And on these, I don't strip a whole lot. Let me try to get in there where you guys can see it. I'm not stripping a whole lot. I'm stripping just a little hair piece. It's zoomed in so much it's not going to focus. But you can see, and that's probably too much, but I don't strip a whole lot off these. The big mistake I see a lot of new guys making is you're stripping too much of your wire, and when you leave exposed wire off the pad, that's an open invitation for shorts, and that's bad, and you don't want that. So I pre-tinned my wire. Now I think I'm going to shorten it a tad bit more, and we're going to come in here for the kill, hopefully where y'all can see it, and try to get this thing centered a little bit more for y'all. There we go. All right, positive wire to positive pad, just like that. Double checking, I am correct. Now is where it's going to get crazy, because now that wire's on there, thing's going to want to flop around on us. So I'm going to try and keep it in view for you guys. Now we're going to go data. So I'm taking 30 gauge wire, stripping it, and twisting it. But you guys have seen that. Smooth Jazz family, you can use 3000 milliamp hours if you can find one. Yes, you can. You just have less runtime, but you know, I'm going to cut a little bit off that one. Okay, let's try to do this where I keep it in frame and you guys can see it, hopefully. Shaky hands. Hello, shaky hands. Have some more caffeine, Tom. Bada bing. And then the last wire is my black wire. I mean, Keep Power is pretty much the go-to. Smooth Jazz family, I see you guys carrying on a bit of a conversation. Sorry I can't be in on it as much. But Smooth Jazz family, yeah, you know, 18650 if you need spare batteries. If you can find a Keep Power 3000 milliamp hour, that's just as good. Just make sure it's 15 amp protected. You don't want to run an unprotected battery in that Saber, because that could create problems. I haven't checked illum.com to see if they are out of stock on those batteries, but I get mine from illum.com. Illum.com. I haven't ordered batteries in a while. Bada bing. Oop, did you guys see that? All right. So now our NeoPixel's wired. Now let's zoom out, because I need you guys zoomed out. And you guys can see I need a new bench. So basically what I'm going to do is, now that that's wired, I'm going to twist these wires together on this single NeoPixel. Just like that. And I didn't cut the wires exactly even, so I'm just going to cut them there. I shouldn't need more wire than that. And there we go. There we have our NeoPixel. Now, what I'm going to do to test this is what you guys have seen before. You guys know I'm a test-a-freak. I don't like wiring or putting anything in the Saber that I haven't already tested to make sure it's working as it should, and this isn't going to be any different. So now that we've wired our NeoPixel, I'm going to solder on a test plug, and I'm going to test this NeoPixel and make sure it's working right, because it could be a bad pixel, you know. I didn't test that strip before we did this, so you know I have to test this NeoPixel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solder a NeoPixel plug on this, and then I have my test rig, which I can use to test this single NeoPixel. So I need a test plug, and I believe I need a male, if I'm not mistaken. So here's my test rig, so I need a male. So now I gotta find a male NeoPixel plug. There's a female. I gotta have a male here somewhere. Yep. I do. On another test item that I had soldered, so I'm gonna desolder that. Alright, so now I'm going to get this ready for my test rig, and I know that my orange is data, and on this test plug, the green, the center wire is data, so I know I'm going to solder that to my orange wire, because on this NeoPixel, if y'all remember, we wired the orange wire to data. And let me pretend this orange wire here real quick. And this is just temporary. I'm just tacking this temporary so we can test the NeoPixel. And then next is going to be my positive. And pretend that positive. And let's try and get these tacked together. Normally I'd use helping hands, but I'm trying to avoid bringing more crap into the picture here, but this could be impossible. And I'm not heat shrinking this because I'm going to hold these wires separate as I'm testing this pixel. And the only reason I'm doing this is so I can test the pixel. That freaking wire. I hate this crap. This Chinesium crap that they put on here is crap. Chinesium wire. Alright. There, that's done. Now, let's do the negative. Which hopefully the negative's not going to be as big of a beast as those were. Pretend. Of course you're going to be a bitch, aren't you? Yep. You're not going to cooperate. So, I ain't going to bring the helping hands in here because there ain't no way. Ain't no way I'm going to bring the helping hands in here. Because this is already a disaster as it is. And I'm going to just quick tack that wire onto there. Alright. So now my plug's on. Now here's what I'm going to do to keep the plug separated. So those wires, they need to be separated. So I'm actually going to use my forceps to keep them separated like that. Okay. Now let's flip this sucker over so you guys can see the NeoPixel. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my test board, which this is a Prism 5.5, and I've got a female NeoPixel test plug, and I'm going to hook it on to our NeoPixel here. And then let's boot this baby up and see if the NeoPixel fires. Here we go. Oh yeah. Let's test lockup.
This is the weapon of a Jedi.
Now we're testing different colors. There's blue. There's lockup. Should be yellow.
Warning. Overload. System overload.
Yep, there's yellow. Next one should be like a fire blade. That's Prism's fire blade. It ain't too good. Lock up. I think this one's green. And we could do color changing too. That way we just know the pixel's healthy, you know what I mean? I just want to put this back on green. And I think that's pure green there. So we know the pixel works. So now I'm going to disconnect from my test rig, and now we know that that NeoPixel is ready to go light up the crystal chamber. Here's the test rig really quick. We built this on a Megtooth Monday Live. It's got two simple switches there, 18650 battery there, and of course a female plug so we can plug in NeoPixels and test them. And you know, it's got the bass speaker there. It's basically just an MHS V6 chassis with a Prism 5.5 connected to a negative NeoPixel plug, and that enables me to test NeoPixels and all kinds of other crap. We built that test rig on a Megtooth Monday Live. I don't recall which week it was, but we definitely built that on a Megtooth Monday Live. So you can build one for yourself if you need one. They're pretty easy to build. It wasn't that in depth. But I think that's that for that. So now I know. Let me bring the Saber back into the picture here. Let's see what time it is. It's almost time to leave this. So what we may have to do is pick up next week. But I think what we're going to do next week is we'll take this NeoPixel that I'll have installed. I'm probably going to glue this NeoPixel in here with E6000 and secure it in there where it's supposed to go. And then we're going to take... So next week what we'll do is we'll take the red wire from this NeoPixel and join it here. We'll take this red wire, which feeds our main blade NeoPixel adapter, and we'll join that to the red wire here. And then we'll join a pigtail red wire onto one of those combos, and then we'll meld all those together and shove them down in here so the positives are out of the way. And then we're really ready to begin the install of the soundboard. So I think what I'll do this week is I'll put the plastic pieces over here that we're going to glue our adaptive chassis thing to. And of course I'm going to desolder this plug off there because we don't need that plug on there anymore. But that's kind of, you know, that's my thought process in wiring, is from the top down. And I know we had some problems last week with the battery, but you know, it's still pretty cool. I put a copper clad battery in there, but this is indeed a custom Saber shop 15 amp protected battery. And the copper cladding is not going to be visible, you know, when the Saber's all put together, because it actually, you know, this one trim piece goes on there, and it's kind of tight with that speaker. I'm going to have to grind that speaker down a little bit. But this trim piece goes on there, so you're not even going to be able to see the battery. You can only see the battery when that comes off. So the customer won't even ever see the battery. The battery will be totally covered by this trim piece that goes onto that part of the Saber. But we're making progress. I know it's been slow. I'm sorry I've been off the air for a few weeks. Yeah, I think it was in February, Max. But yeah, I mean, wiring a crystal chamber ain't that hard. And you see tonight we did it with just a cut off scrap piece of NeoPixel. These things are small, and I know it looked a little shaky, but you know, when I got the camera tripod set up, which you guys are under right here, and then you know, I'm trying to wire so you guys can see it. It's not as easy as it is when you're just doing it by yourself. These camera tripods always make things a lot more difficult than it really is. So you guys can definitely do this on your own, and you know, if I can do it, you can do it. But at any rate, I'm glad to get back to you guys. Yeah, Max, go ahead and message me, and when I close out, I'll try and answer you. And to everyone else, you know, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully everyone's learning something, or, you know, I'll go back and read your comments and see if I missed any tips that you guys are giving me. But, you know, I guess here we are. We're doing Saber installs on these Monday Live vids, and I realized that this is not the whole install. And, you know, there's guys that can install Sabers, you know, 3 or 4 an hour. I'm not that guy, because I test everything at every step of the way. And, you know, when I don't get the test that I want, then I go back to the drawing board. But you can see it's starting to come together inside the hilt here. These 2 blue wires here are the speaker wires, by the way. And, you know, we'll get it all cleaned up and hopefully be ready to install the board. So I think what we'll do next week is the positive merges and then some chat. And then I'll save the board install for the week after that. And, or maybe we'll do the config and then do the board install. Because this Saber's going to have 3 blades. It's going to have the main blade up here. It's going to have the Shtok pixel connector as a second blade because we wired it in V4. And then it's going to have the crystal chamber, so that'll be 3 blades. So we'll probably, you know, finish these merges next week and then maybe start working on the config file so you guys can see how we do that. And then the following week we'll probably install the Proffie. And this is getting Proffie 2.2. This one's going across the big pond over there across the Pacific Ocean to Tony. Way over on the other side of the world. But hopefully we can get this done. But thank you, everybody, and I will always put something in here for the Birchie, who's probably trying to get his Birch is probably trying to get his stuff squared away. But stand by, let's get you off the tripod and we'll set you back over here. Oh, what a mess. Hope you guys didn't see that. Well, I hope everyone got something out of that video tonight, but it's crazy. I mean, you can see back over here on the bench, this is the small tripod that the camera was sitting on, filming what we were doing back here. So you can see it kind of as cramped quarters. There's not much room for me to work. And you got this tripod back behind me that this is set up on, and you got the mess of stuff behind me because I'm shipping stuff out wholesale right now. I have a Micom to ship out tonight, and some other work that I'm doing, and I'll do some other stuff on this Saber to get it ready for the video next week. But I want everybody to know that, you know, that last live video we did, which was the beginning install on this Saber, that the battery fault was my fault because I let those 2 wires touch. That was the danger. Remember, I was joking, we're living dangerously, ooh. And then those wires at some point had touched and tripped the battery protection circuit. There was nothing wrong with that battery. The battery was fine. If you ever trip a protection circuit on a battery like that when you're installing it, all you need to do is hook it into a charge circuit, and that'll recycle the protection circuit, and then your battery will be back to operational again. So, Bert just got the jokes now. But, you know, thank you everybody for watching. We've been on for an hour. That's all we're going to do tonight. Tune in next week, and we'll do the positive merges in the Saber. And I think we'll start writing the config because that'll give me time to glue the plastic in across that we're going to mount the Proffie board adaptive chassis to. And then the following week, we'll actually install the Proffie 2.2 on this thing. And we've already built the config because we'll try to do that next week. And we'll do that on Screen Chapter. Yeah, Bobby, I got it. And I got to send the Saber off, but you and I need to talk because Fin Jedi was programmed for that KR-V2 blade, so I need to know what blade you're going to use in it and how many pixels. You and I will talk offline about that, and then I'll send you out the Fin Jedi. So Fin Jedi sold. Thank you, Bobby. I'm sorry. Work's been crazy. This is my first night back in home, basically. for what that is. You know, my job's really been tough lately. I did request a transfer. Had enough of what I'm currently doing, and hopefully they grant me the transfer, so maybe I don't get called in the middle of the night every night, and you know, working 24/7, make Tom a dull boy, and also take lightsaber time away. And Kim Kanama, I do need to send you a message and a mail, and I'll try to get that done this week, but there's a package that I need to send you so you can model something up for me, and I will get that off to you as quick as I can. But at any rate, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for tuning in. And if you're installing Sabers, hopefully you learned something. And if you got any tips for me, say, hey, Beaker, you could do this better, then send them to me and I'll take criticism. And sometimes I change my ways too. Like, you know, leaving wires exposed on batteries and living dangerously. I don't think I'll be doing that anymore. While it was funny for the video, it wasn't funny in real life because it caused a huge fiasco. At any rate, got it fixed. Got it worked out. Everything's all good. Good night, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And out we go. May the force be with you, or the dark side.
Thank you, everybody, for watching, as usual. I really appreciate y'all tuning in on my channel. And as always,